is Emma for the University of ADHD podcast, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my experiences of the school system and ADHD. My son is 16 now, and in his last year at school, throughout his years at school, from the start right up to the present day, I've been taken aback by the attitudes of schools and teachers towards ADHD and children with ADHD. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really good positive work going on in schools for neurodivergent children. We need more of that. However, from what I've heard from my clients and other parents with neurospicy children, there are still big improvements that need to be made. But the good news is we are heading in the right direction. So I'm going to talk about our experience of navigating the school system. This is my experience, and it may differ from that of other people. It's also worth noting that my child is male and things can be a lot different for females. Another point I'm going to make is I am not saying that I'm perfect at all. I will hold my hands up. I've struggled to manage his behaviour at times and I've desperately pleaded for help, and it's been a massive learning curve. But I must say that it's been a fight from start to finish, fighting and waiting for a diagnosis, to get him medication, which he's still not on because he's been let down by the health system, which is another podcast episode probably in the making. If he'd have been given medication when he was diagnosed at the age of 7, this could have prevented a lot of the problems that we've had. I've had to fight for him to have the same opportunities in education as the other children. I've had to fight to have him not branded as a naughty kid with unacceptable behaviour. I'm going to go through 5 experiences which have caused me, I will say, a bit more than mild annoyance. If any of you out there have experienced similar, either with your children or yourself, get in touch by emailing me on emma@rethink-adhd.co.uk, as I'd love to hear your story, and I'm compiling these experiences to help to train teachers in the future. Number 1 is kids with ADHD get in trouble a lot, even for stuff they haven't done. So the nature of ADHD, they're likely to cause a disturbance in the classroom and get in trouble for it. But once they get branded as being that naughty child, then the other kids, they get to know this, and what can happen is that the child with ADHD gets blamed for things that other children have done. This has happened to my son a lot, where other children have done things and then said, he did it, my son did it, and then he's got blamed because the teachers have believed them straight away. He does that kind of thing, so yeah, that's him. Also, children with ADHD tend to be people pleasers in order to fit in, and what can happen is you've got a group of children that the child wants to get to know and hang around with, and they want to do something, but they haven't got the guts to do it. The child with ADHD will do that thing and then end up getting in trouble for it. Number 2, children with ADHD are expected to do what is completely impossible for them. I picked my son up from his reception class and was often greeted by his teacher talking about him through grated teeth. What did he do wrong? He won't hang his coat up. I suddenly felt like a failure because I hadn't managed to get my 4-year-old child to hang his coat up. Did everybody else live in Mary Poppins land? Were we the only household that had the coat on the floor? Was I a bad parent for picking up the coat? The next thing, he makes noises when he's sat on the carpet for story time. With hindsight, I would have said, give him something to do then. Give him a fidget toy or another activity to be doing with. Don't expect him just to sit there. Children with ADHD stim. A fidget toy and maybe gently bringing his attention back to the story would work a treat. Was this my fault for not stopping him from singing, chatting and making noises? He seemed happy, why would I stop that? Should 4-year-olds be quiet on command? I was really getting this parenting thing wrong, or so it would seem. We took him out of that school as he was bullied to the point of coming home regularly with injuries, and I had to get a sick note for a 5-year-old that said stress on it. The next school was better and did make some adaptations, but I had a flurry of he won't do X, Y, and Z if he would just put more effort in. Having worked with a lot of adults with ADHD, these things were said to them when they were at school too, and it deeply hurt them. And it's followed them into adulthood in the form of low self esteem, anxiety, depression, self limiting beliefs, and rejection sensitivity dysphoria. It's not a case of won't do, it's a case of can't do. So you have to adapt your teaching methods. The effort thing really gets on my nerves. The amount of effort a person with ADHD has to put in to be able to behave in a way that's totally against how their brain is working is astounding. They're putting in effort to sit still, to try to listen to and process what you're trying to teach them, to be a, in inverted commas, good child. They struggle to sit and focus on tasks that their brain won't engage with. While his behaviour improved at school, home life became miserable. He was exhausted from all the effort he'd put in at school. I gave up trying to get him to do his homework and got a lot of criticism from school for doing so. He had put all his effort for that day into school, and the meltdowns, broken furniture, and injuries to myself weren't worth getting him to do his homework. Kids with ADHD are far from lazy, I will tell you that for nothing. Number 3, kids with ADHD spend a lot of time in nurture rooms. My son spent most of his reception year in a nurture group where he was physically beaten by other children. As I said, I got him out of that school as they refused to acknowledge that any bullying was going on. The focus was about his behaviour. Him kicking and screaming outside the school, refusing to go in, was because he was naughty. They didn't take into consideration that I was complaining about him coming home with bruises on him and that he was being bullied and singled out for being different. No, it was because he was naughty and refusing to go into school. Due to being in a nurture room pretty much all the time, he missed a lot of education and was really behind with his writing and his reading. Nurture rooms are supposed to be used as a place to go if children are emotionally dysregulated or have sensory overload. But what tends to happen is that if teachers can't manage their behaviour, often due to lack of resources and lack of training, that child gets instantly sent to that nurture room, and this clearly has an impact on their education. Number 4. Yes, we've tried a bloody reward chart. I've had so many meetings where it was insinuated that he wouldn't behave due to our parenting techniques. Also, listen to the next point. We were asked things like, are you consistent with your parenting? What do you do in such and such a situation? And every answer I gave, I felt criticised and given another suggestion as if we hadn't tried absolutely everything. My favourite, have you tried a reward chart? I explained that yes, we have, several times. They work for about 3 days, a week maximum, then he loses interest with it. We've tried different rewards, but if he doesn't get the reward, he has an all or nothing attitude, and quite frankly, the whole thing goes to shit. It was then explained to me what a reward chart is and how it works. I found a lot of the advice we were given really invalidating to us as parents, but extremely invalidating to his emotions. He had a sort of behavioural contract. It was called 10 Steps to Being Good. Good. Having that in its title is bad enough. Not 10 examples of good behaviour. This is 10 ways that you can be a good person. A copy was at school, a copy was on our fridge, and a copy was in his bag. One of the rules, the 10 steps to being a good person, was don't get angry. It wasn't control or manage your anger, or go and do some breathing techniques, or a child friendly calming or soothing method. It was don't get angry. You're telling a child with ADHD who struggles with emotion regulation, who gets frustrated because you're making him sit in a classroom for hours on end to do things that his brain can't process, to just not get angry. Anger is a normal, natural emotion which, as a society, is seen negatively, but sometimes it can't be helped, or it's essential to warn us that things in our lives aren't serving us and that we need to do something about it. It's essentially telling him that he is a bad person because he gets angry. And this makes me angry just thinking about it. Number 5. Parents of kids with ADHD get judged a lot. A grown adult in the street told me I needed to give my son a good hiding when he was having a meltdown in the street. We got a lot of that. But alarmingly, I've had this kind of judgment on my parenting from school staff and been made to feel completely shit. Some of it goes back to the reward chart stuff, but some of it was more deeply personal. It was beyond tips for managing behaviour, but insinuating that his impulsivity, hyperactivity, and emotion dysregulation was because of my bad parenting. ADHD is hereditary and is not caused by bad parenting. Experiences like this will stay with people for life. If you've got ADHD and you've been told, if only you'd put more effort in, or why can't you do this, this, and this, that really impacts on you for the rest of your life. It can put people off education forever. It can cause problems with authority that can completely limit people's employment prospects and careers. He's going to college next year, and from my experiences of working in one, or two, or three, I know it will be completely different and much more inclusive. For those of you thinking about returning to education as an adult, worried about going to college or university because of your experiences at school, tomorrow's episode is for you. I'm going to address worries you may have and hopefully reassure you that you can do it, and to help you to make those positive steps to get the future that you want and deserve. If you'd like any one-to-one help, please go to my website and book a free 20-minute call. It's rethink-adhd.co.uk. I'll speak to you tomorrow.